Today we look at the role of the curator in two very different public galleries. The public galleries we're looking at are the ones we visited. First of all, the National Gallery of Victoria, largest gallery in Victoria, biggest collection in Victoria, curatorial role, highly regarded and with a support staff. The other gallery, of course, is the Mornington Peninsula Regional Gallery, small regional gallery, less works collected, specialising, role of curator there, different again. Dr. Ted Gott is the curator at the National Gallery of Victoria, and he explained to us his role was that of the contact curator, because the head curator at this stage was the Frenchman Henri Lorette. So the exhibition is immersive and thematic. It includes 204 works from 14 countries owned by 67 different owners, both public and private. The exhibit is only the second Degas retrospective that's ever been held. The last one was in the 1980s, and Henri Lorette wanted to hold a retrospective before he turned up his toes, basically. So he's identified a whole list of works that he wants to be in the exhibit, and Ted Gott's job and the cast of his helpers is to find those works. All right, the points that Ted made. Know the work intimately. After 1890, Degas stopped exhibiting, didn't need to anymore. He painted another 3,000 works before he died, 27 years later. The family found his works after he died and decided to have three massive sales. And so after World War One, there were three sales. Then the works went to different owners, private and public. A catalogue raisonné, meaning a catalogue of those works that were known, was put together after World War II. So months of research went into finding out who the owners were, what works were available, auction catalogues were gone through, this sort of thing. Painstaking work, identifying and finding where the works were that Henri had identified. The contact curator and their team has a job of searching, locating and then persuading owners to loan the work. In the case of works owned by the Scottish Museum, this meant that an Act of Parliament had to be passed to allow the works to leave the United Kingdom. MoMA in New York City has a survey of Degas monotypes on at the same time as the Melbourne exhibition. So because they own that, protocol demands that these works can't be requested to be exhibited at the NGV. Ted mentioned that vision comes first, and that's Henri's job. Then comes the detective work, then comes negotiation, and then comes realisation. Danny Lacy is the curator at the Mornington Peninsula Regional Gallery, the MPRG. He defined his job as being very different. He called it the fun stuff. You're working on the national works on paper, which takes up the whole exhibition space, but you're also working on two or three other exhibitions at the same time that may be 2 or 3 years in the future. And you're considering things like how to fill the space, how to balance your time. Touring exhibitions have to be planned 2 to 3 years in advance, and you might be working on one exhibition 1 week at the MPRG, and then you might be working on another exhibition that won't be going ahead for 4 years' time. The MPRG has an amazing collection that's predominantly works on paper. This is their focus. That's the history of the gallery, and they have an acquisition award, and they run an invitation to submit your works for display for the National Works on Paper. They received 994 applications to exhibit for this year's exhibition, and 66 works were chosen to be exhibited. 12 of those works were then purchased. In the summer, the MPRG develops their own exhibition. This year, the theme is birds, and the exhibit will fill the entire gallery for the holiday crowd. The MPRG is commissioning a colouring book to go with the exhibition, because obviously they're attracting kids, so a colouring book will fit in nicely. Throughout the year, there are touring exhibitions, not just for works on paper. So, curatorial decisions for the current show. So many works, how do we set it up? 66 works are looked at through a thematic connection, and the themes they'd used to connect the works together were works with text, works with animals, works with dance, and works with flight. Works for guided tours have to be considered. Works on paper, good for contemporary artists and for contemporary practice. So what he's saying there is that the MPRG's thematic approach to their role is carefully considered. Works on paper is an important area that no other gallery is looking at in quite so much detail, so it gives them a point of difference. Curatorial and layout decisions are they're no longer modelled with marquees, as in with small mock-ups that are models. They are now done in a piece of software called Role of Curator, which allows a walk-through layout of an exhibition, and works can be changed around, walls can be moved, that sort of thing in the software to see where stuff's going to fit. So that's the basis of the two different roles of the curators as seen by Dr. Ted Gott and by Danny Lacy from the two different galleries.